guys today. So as you know, we're going to talk about Windows 10. So there's a couple things I want to say first. Is throughout the presentation, the way this is going to work is I'm going to talk, show y'all some stuff, and then y'all are going to do it. So inside your bags, you should have a packet kind of like this. And it's stapled front and back, and there's like lab exercises, there's even questions in there. So I tried to make it a little interactive because one of the best ways to learn is to actually to reflect on what you just did and then write it down. So I'm trying this method. I don't know that I haven't done this type of a method with y'all before. So if y'all like this, just tell me and let me know, and we can do more stuff like this. I'll talk, and then y'all just follow along in the book, and then we'll move on to the next module, and we'll do that throughout until probably about noon or so. So, quick show of hands, who has Windows 10 at home, or who has played with Windows 10 and stuff like that? Okay, so good, that's good. So I'm going to start out mostly talking about the boring stuff. It's a lot of like theory about what Microsoft is doing with Windows 10, where it's going, why things are the way they are, stuff like that. And then we'll get into more like the new features of Windows 10 specifically, and then we'll talk about some advanced stuff. And advanced, I say that loosely. So that's kind of the layout of the morning. Do y'all have any questions before we begin? Okay. On the laptops, y'all have Heat and TechView, and all that should already be installed. So while I'm talking, while you're doing the exercises, try to stay on task. Don't worry. Okay? Don't set up anything. Don't do any of that. Just try to stay on task because this is for y'all. So if there's no questions, let's get started. Okay. So of course, I have to open up with a joke. So you all know that there was Windows 8, Windows 8.1, and then Windows 10. So what happened to Windows 9? 7, 8, 9. You're so good. I thought it was good.
I'm only 8.
So again, the agenda, we're just going to talk about kind of general overview, talk about some of the major UI changes and what looks different in Windows 10, and then we'll talk about some of the new features and then some more advanced information. Let's see. So the user interface, Microsoft has done a lot of work to make Windows 10 kind of the baby of Windows 7 and Windows 8, right? You've got live tiles still, which was a feature of Windows 8. It didn't really work all that well, but the information that it presented was still really good. So they decided to keep it, but it's in a slightly different form. The start screen that was in Windows 8 is now back to a start menu, so you do have your all programs again versus just tiles everywhere. That didn't make any sense. All programs has been renamed to all apps because they want you to use apps, right, and applications. It makes sense. So we'll talk a little bit more about all those in detail. So Windows Explorer looks a little bit different. It's really awesome, especially from Windows 7. Start menu's back to settings. There's a new settings menu, and it effectively replaces the control panel. And so you'll see them used interchangeably throughout the OS. There's a notification center. Most of you are familiar with that on your phone, right? When you swipe down from the top of your phone, you get the little notification bar or whatever. You have that very similar feel in Windows 10. In Windows 8, when you would swipe from the right, you would get that Charms menu that didn't really make sense. But when you swipe from the right now in Windows 10, you get the notification center. It's sometimes referred to as the Action Center, but it's got notifications for emails, for if your firewall is disabled, just random notifications about Windows 10 reside in there. And then Snap Assistant, you're all familiar when you drag a window to the side of Windows 7, it'll automatically pop up to half the screen, right? So in Windows 10, they've expanded that to be within quadrants as well. So if you drag up in the upper left-hand corner, then it's just going to be the one quadrant. If you drag to the side, it'll be the side. If you drag to the bottom corner, then it'll be the bottom quadrant, etc. So you'll have a chance to play with all that.
Didn't know that.
They're right there. So, really quick, there's an introductory video that I'm going to show you. This was a promotional video for Windows 10 by Microsoft.
By democratizing
Don't hear that.
technology, not putting it on a pedestal. By respecting everyone's privacy and encouraging their individuality. But we're not building another new operating system. We're building a deeply personal and incredibly empowering experience called Windows. Windows will be a natural evolution from innovations like Connect and Cortana. It will be built from the ground up, embracing the things that make us human. It will power the tools that people use every day, everything from PCs to ATMs, tablets to subways, phones to ultrasound machines. It will be energetic and alive, just like the people it's built for. It will enhance their whole world, not just their digital life. And it will give them a voice. Then learn from and act on it. Windows will always be for people who do. Because people who do are the ones who move the world forward.
Okay, so, in my, so here, I have notes to ask, like, what did you see in that video that was different than traditional Windows that you think of like a desktop OS? See anything different or new that was like Windows can do? Because they had some cool stuff in there, like the holographic stuff. Did you see that kind of virtual reality stuff? So that's one feature of Windows 10 coming. It'll feature a device called HoloLens. It's not out yet, but it's definitely interesting to see where Microsoft is taking this. You kind of notice that there were all these different lifestyles and uses of Windows 10, like ultrasound machine to a PC to a phone, etc. So one thing that Microsoft has done is they're taking Windows 10 and making it the same platform across multiple devices, right? Which is kind of a big feat for them, considering they have so much going on. One area that they're trying to get into, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, is the Internet of Things. So you'll see like things like Raspberry Pis running Windows 10, which typically only ran Linux before. And then you'll start seeing some things like temperature control, ATM machines, ultrasound machines, stuff like that that are a little bit different than what you would traditionally see as a computer that's running Windows. So it's very interesting. So the next slide is really this infograph, in my opinion, of this platform convergence and how Microsoft has gone from where they were at to where they're going with Windows 10. So you can see that they have an Xbox, which is their own platform. It's running its own Xbox OS type operating system. And then the middle one is Windows 8, Windows 8.1, which again is a separate OS altogether. And then finally at the bottom is Windows Phone. And you can see their convergence together to finally join up at Windows 10, where all devices are running the same thing. So Xbox will run Windows 10. I think it's coming in November. Obviously Windows 10 for the desktop, and then Windows 10 for the phone is out, and then they've added this Windows on devices, which is talking about the Raspberry Pis and the various devices out there that are just connected that you don't actually have a GUI and you get in and that's well. So
Am I going to be able to play my Windows 10 or my Xbox games on my Windows 10 laptop?
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah. Well, yeah, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But yes, one feature within the Xbox app that's built into Windows 10 is you can stream your Xbox games from your Xbox at home, wherever you're at. So we actually disabled Xbox app here. We got to. I asked Ernie if I could get an Xbox so that I could test that, but he said no. So again, this is just, and there's actually an updated version of this image out now, but they're kind of touting one product family, one platform, one store, right? So that not only will the operating system run on these multiple devices, but there's one store. So all the applications that you install from the App Store or Windows Store, it runs on any of those devices. So they're called universal applications. And universal applications will run on mobile PC, Xbox, Surface Hub, which is a touch. It's like a conference style TV. It's not out yet, and I don't know if we'll ever see that like in a school district scenario, but it's kind of cool. You can mark on it. It's got built-in Skype, so you can conference people and stuff like that. So that's a new product from them. And then HoloLens, like I talked about. So really the point that I'm just trying to tell y'all here is that what Microsoft is allowing developers to do is develop one app that will run across all these various devices. And so you'll start seeing some of those universal apps start making their way into the store and how they're used. Right now there's not a lot yet. And Microsoft also has a vision of 1 billion devices running Windows 10 since their launch on July 29th. You could argue that that is a little hopeful, I guess, for lack of a better word. So Microsoft is trying to equip developers with the right tools to get their applications, because obviously applications are one of the driving forces of an OS, and so they are trying to get developers to develop their apps for Windows on all these devices. So by doing that, they made this universal app platform, and you can actually transform your current code, that's either web code or if it's .NET Win32 applications, which are traditional like exe, MSI applications that you install on Windows. If you have an Android application that was written in C++, because typically Android's written in C++ or Java. And then of course iOS, they're allowing these, they're creating these bridges, which is kind of what this image is focusing on, and bringing that code into the Windows Universal App Platform code base so that they can just port their apps over. So that's all still in development, but that's what their kind of their goal and their mission is. So it's kind of boring, but just know that that's what they're trying to do. Okay, so for the PC, minimum system requirements, not a lot. You have to have a gigahertz processor or faster. You have to have at least 1 gig RAM for 32-bit, 2 gigs for 64-bit. You have to have 16 gigs of free hard disk space. The graphics card, you have to have DirectX 9 with a WDDM driver. That's most graphics drivers right now. A lot of the older models, especially for, like we were talking about, like 600, 610s, those don't have it. So good thing we're getting rid of them. But most of the newer machines have that. And then to take advantage of all the features that Windows 10 offers, you have to have internet access and a Microsoft account. So I asked all of y'all to bring your Microsoft accounts. I hope y'all did, because y'all need it. So really quick, again, this really doesn't pertain to Denton ISD, it's just Windows 10 in general. When Microsoft released Windows 10, they released it via Windows Update, which is huge. That's a major, major shift in the way that Windows has delivered an operating system. Traditionally, a new operating system comes out, you have to go get a disk, you have to go buy it somewhere. You can't just download it from Windows Update. They don't deliver it that way. But with Windows 10, that's what they did. And you can see the little green circle is a direct upgrade path. So they were touting that with Windows Update, if you were running the latest version of Windows 8.1, or if you were running Windows 7 SP1, you would get Windows 10 through Windows Update. And then Windows 5.1. However, if you need to, you can upgrade any version of Windows 7 or Windows 8 from the disk. So there's still that option available, you just didn't get it automatically downloaded to your PC from Windows Update. So Microsoft has put a lot of emphasis on upgrades, and they want you to be able to upgrade and just retaining all your apps and data and stuff. Just like you update your Android and iOS phone all the time, you don't need to think about it really anymore, you just do it. That's kind of the concept that Microsoft is trying to get to, that model. So very interesting that they've done that, and so far they've succeeded. Right now there's currently 100 million Windows 10 installs. I think there's 500,000 or something maybe 1 million enterprise copies, 1.5 million maybe, enterprise Windows 10, which really goes to show that not only are consumers adopting Windows 10 because it was free, but enterprises are actually adopting it versus Windows 8.1. No enterprises, no corporations wanted it, just because it was a consumer-based UI, and so very interesting to see the direction that's going. Again, I wanted to talk about Microsoft accounts really quick, because you do kind of have to have them for all the features of Windows 10. Yesterday we actually had a meeting with Microsoft, and they kind of explained to us that that shouldn't be the case anymore. At the time of this presentation, it was the case. So I'm still looking into that. But you have to have a Microsoft account to utilize all the features of Windows 10, and we'll get into what features those are. What I was saying was that this is not your DISD network account or your Office 365 account, because it's not. A Microsoft account is personal. We can't manage it. We do manage the 365 accounts. But what we learned yesterday was, or supposedly, is that those features will work with having an Office 365 account. So if that's the case, awesome, because that will make our lives so much more simple. So we'll just have to try and see. So to continue on, a Microsoft account is proprietary to Microsoft. It's not any other, I mean, it can be any email address. So you can technically have it at gmail.com. You can have it at g.dentisd.org if you want, at dentisd.org. It's however you sign up to create it. So that can get very confusing for users. So as we go through this, think about that, because that's kind of a key factor in what we're going to do. So I stated that Microsoft is subtly forcing users to use their Microsoft accounts. That's because they want all those features are connected, and they want you to be able to sync your data and apps across all of your devices and be able to work and play at home and at work and whatever. So just know that it's reliant on some sort of an internet connected account.
That's not any different than Apple or Google, is it? I mean, they're exactly the same way, aren't they?
Essentially, they're exactly an Apple ID, a Microsoft account, a Google account. They're all the same. We provide our users with Google accounts, but we can't provide them with Apple IDs or Microsoft accounts. Personally, I mean, we can create them and give it to them, but it would be the same way that they could sign up for it. So, good question.
So if we're going to possibly go that direction, which it sounds like we might down the line, is there thoughts to go away from migrating things over to Google and start taking advantage of Office 365 instead?
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
We'll talk about it. Good question. Okay, so back to the OS and the actual UI about it. So this is an example of the new Start menu. So I kind of wanted to point out a few different things. So I'm going to stand up here and act like I know what I'm talking about. You can see that this is very reminiscent of Windows 8, where it's got the live tiles, but at the same time, it's very reminiscent of Windows 7, where you have your recently used apps, and even like your all apps and your power button, and getting to settings and stuff like that. So right here, it says all apps. You can't control that. That is there 100%. You can't move it. Same with power and settings. So when you go to all apps, it will actually take you to the list of all your apps. Now, one thing that Microsoft has done with this list is typically, if you think about Windows 7, you saw your loose apps at the top, and then at the bottom you saw your folders, right? And the folders were in alphabetical order. So it's a little bit different now, where everything is listed in alphabetical order, whether it's loose or whether it's in a folder. Okay, so what's neat about it, and I probably can just show you, is when you, what you'll notice is like Acrobat Reader's up here A, Alarms and Clock is here in A, but I have no applications that start with B, so B doesn't even exist in my list here. So even folders are under D, stuff like that. So that makes sense, right? But what's cool is when you click on A, you get a list, like a little jump list. So you can jump all the way down to X and it'll take you there. So kind of neat. It helps, at least it helped me stay organized a little more. I wasn't like hunting and pecking for everything. It doesn't sort things that are within your folder. So it's using the folder name to sort within the main list. So just know that. Again, you get your back button. The all apps changes to back. You get power, so you can sleep, shut down, restart. Notice there's no log off here. That's because log off has changed up here to your user account where you will sign out or lock the computer. Settings, the File Explorer downloads and documents, I actually added those in. So they're in the settings, you can actually change it up a little bit. So you can add what you want to use or like little shortcuts that you personally use. But these three right here you cannot change. So then also know that you can add as many live tiles as you want. I think right now in the build on your computers, I think the limit is 512, but in November the limit will be up to 1024. So you can have up to 1,000 tiles on your start menu, which, you know, that would be insane, but it's possible. You can expand this out and notice how it changes based on how far you drag it out. I think right now the furthest it goes out is 3 columns, but it'll go to 4 in November too. You can group your apps together. You can name this, if I don't want to name it Having Fun. If I didn't tell you, I still can do it. Then I can actually take this group of apps and move them wherever I want. So you do have a lot of flexibility and customization to these live tiles. One question that we had last training was these live tiles, like my news app, I want to see 2 headlines on there or 3 headlines on there. You don't have control over that. That's up to the developer of the application. So the live tile you get, like it may change based on your location or what's going on, but there's very little customization that you have towards the live tiles other than what the developer gives you. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. Trying to think if there's any other information. Do y'all have any questions on that?
I do.
Yeah.
How do you make documents show up there?
If you go into your settings, it's under personalization, under start, and then you can say, where's it at?
Oh, I see.
Choose which folders up here on start. So if I add in music and pictures and videos, then you will see my pictures, music, and videos right there. So you're it's predefined a little bit. There's a personal folder which you can add, but it is called personal folder, and it takes you to your user profile page. So I think that's a little misleading because you can't really edit like at a certain location that you want. Does that answer your question?
Yes, perfect, thank you.
Is that the same place you go to add tiles?
No. So, okay, that's a great question. So to add tiles, you come find, whether it's like within a start menu, maybe I want this Dell thing, all you do is right click on the application and you say pin to start, and then throw it in there. You can click and drag these around as you want. You can resize them as you need, whatever your preference is, and move them around. You can actually, you can turn live tiles off if you don't want it moving around. And kind of the same, you can pin it to the taskbar if you need, and then rate and review and the store and stuff like that. So, cool.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's move forward. So settings. So you saw that I went into settings and I kind of changed things. So know that this is replacing the control panel, kind of. It hasn't fully yet. You will see a lot of settings, like if you want to go change something, like add a printer. You might see that it has its own way of doing it inside the settings, but then like it might redirect you back to an old dialog box that was very that was found in the control panel. One thing I know for sure is in the themes. If you go into if you right click on the desktop and you go to personalize, it brings up the settings menu, right, or the settings application. This is a modern application or a universal app, so it will run across all devices because it's the way Microsoft designed it. But you'll notice that in the themes, you click on theme settings and it reverts you to the control panel style over here like that. So there's still a lot of give and take right now between the settings and the control panel, but as Windows 10 progresses, because it is a service, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, you'll see most settings merge into the settings app and away from the control panel. So they're getting away from the Win32 style applications and more towards the modern applications. I think in your book you'll see a few examples of both ways, because sometimes in the control panel, like you'll notice that Windows Update is not in the control panel, it's only in the settings app. So there's a couple of exercises that will show you kind of highlight that. There's really that's all I have to say about that, is just know that it's the new way of doing things. There's a category view. Like in control panel, usually you have your category view, but then you could change it to individual icons. That's not an option here. You pretty much have this as your only option. Does anybody have any questions on that before I move forward? Okay. If I'm going too fast, y'all need to tell me. So the notifications menu, again, I kind of talked about this already. It's replacing the charms menu as far as swiping in from the right. Down by the clock, there's a little icon. It looks kind of like a text message icon or a little chat icon, and that is what opens up the notification icons. Sometimes it's referred to as the Action Center. And what I want to highlight is these quick settings, because these quick settings are going to change based on the device that you're using. So the first thing you'll notice is tablet mode, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But you have display, which controls the brightness, the media connect, which is like the mirror cast, so you can project your computer wirelessly, which only certain hardware allows. You can get to the all settings that we just talked about from here. You can enable or disable location services, and then VPN, which again, our VPN is a little bit different because we use Cisco, so that doesn't necessarily work. We still have to use the AnyConnect. But know that you get your notifications here. You can see that mine's saying there's a Java update, of course. And you can expand that. When you click on this notification, it'll take you to the actual application that's giving you that notification. There's a clear all button up here, so if you get like a ton of notifications, you just click clear all and they all go away. But you can click individually on the X's to make individual notifications go away, so you still have a little bit of control. Back to this, if you're on a battery-powered device, like a laptop or a tablet, you'll actually get additional settings. So let me show you what that looks like. Again, I don't know if I can get it on this thing. May not be able to. Well, anyway, you get you can see it on your laptop. If you click on the bottom right-hand corner with the little notification icon, you can see that there's like the wireless. You can connect to wireless. You can turn on Bluetooth off. You can go into airplane mode. All that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to see how that will change based on what device you're using. And you can collapse that to make it smaller or bigger as you wish. Okay, so that's pretty much that. Do y'all have any questions on that? No? Keep going. Shut up. Oh, and the last one was the, I don't have it in here, but the Snap Assistant. I think I wanted to show you all that more than anything. So if you take my Windows Explorer here, if you go up into the upper corner here, it'll go to a quadrant. If I go here, oops, text. You can see that it highlights that box right there, and vice versa. So you can still do half screen or whatever. That's all messed up, or full screen. So it's pretty neat. If you have two applications, I don't know how to get that back. When you have two active applications, when you drag one, it actually references the other applications that are open, so you can choose your window and kind of suggests it for you, which is nice. I like it when they recommend stuff to me. So, you'll have an exercise in there to play with that. So with that, that is the end of the first module. So do y'all have any questions?